which has provided services in over 100 countries and responds to over 5,000 requests annually. Dr. Ola studied medicine and surgery at the Hull York Medical School, after which she worked in acute medicine in the UK. She also holds a master's degree in finance and economic policy from the University of London. She currently teaches economics and finance at the School of Politics, Policy and Governance in Nigeria. She has published 4 books, co-authored written articles in the British Medical Journal, the Journal of Emergency Medical Services, the Niger Delta Medical Journal, the New York Times, and the Huffington Post. She's an international speaker who has spoken at the TED Global Conference, the European Union, the United Nations, World Bank, amongst others. She has also received multiple awards and nominations. In 2022, she received a national award conferring her as member of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by the President of Nigeria. Please welcome with me warmly, Dr. Ola Brown. I think we can do better than that.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And it's so great to be here. Thank you so much. I definitely need the water. Coming in this morning, it's been a while since I've spoken at church. But when the protocol were inviting me in, I was like, I remember when I did this job. In fact, there's no department that I've not worked before, because my dad was a pastor, so I was always just shifting from Sunday school to other departments. But it's been a while since I've spoken, so it's great to be here, and it's great to be speaking on one of my favorite topics, which is innovation. So a bit about me. I run a venture capital firm now, which is like a bank. Your Nigerian banks take money from you and give it to Dangote. I also take money from my customers, which are institutions, but I give it to people that are poorer than Dangote, people that are just starting up. And I invest that money primarily in health tech and financial services, or fintech. So that's what I do for a living. Formerly, before I started doing this, I founded an emergency services company called Flying Doctors. So that's a bit about me. But I'm going to go on to innovating our way into the future. And I had to change my slides when I realized I was going to be the first speaker, because I just want to set the context around innovation and what innovation means for our nation and how we can become more innovative as a country. So why innovation matters. This is one of my favorite Harvard professors. His name is Professor Hauschman, and he's looked at development. And one of the things that he found about innovation is that for a country to develop, for people to get rich, they need to innovate and they need to make things. So if your country is not rich, it means that you're not making things, you're not innovating. And he gives a really famous talk, which you can find on YouTube, to do things that we don't really want to do. There's this video that went viral, and it said, don't worry about my future. That is enjoyment now. I'd like to invite us all to start maybe worrying about our future a little bit and maybe defer that enjoyment. Why? So, next slide. So, I always hear that Nigeria is not an enabling environment. We can't succeed in Nigeria because, it's just a bad place. But when we japa, look at what happens. The Indians earn $140,000 per year when they move to America, on average, as immigrants. The Pakistanis, that are on the same level as Nigeria, in fact, they earn $120,000 per year. When the Chinese move from China, it's not an enabling environment, to America, they earn $100,000 per year. Even Ghana, that I was abusing earlier, that they are bankrupt and they have not paid their debts, they still earn $80,000 a year when they japa. Nigerians, when we move, we only earn $79,000. Somalians that earn less than us, and that's because their country is at war. So we are very, very brilliant. But actually, an Indian that moves, the average Indian that moves, earns double what we earn, even when we're in an enabling environment. So it tells us, because all of these people, the Indians, the Pakistanis, they're running away from the same problem, right? Lack of opportunity. On an environment that is not enabling. On some measures, Pakistan is even worse than Nigeria. But when they get there, they're able to hustle more than us. So what more can we say about discipline? And what are the dimensions of discipline that I'm going to talk about today? I think the number one mistake around discipline is, if Pastor Koju had invited any Nigerian billionaire here, probably the first thing they would have said is follow your passion. And I never say that. And I don't even take them seriously. Because the richest men in this country make cement and pasta and rice and tomatoes, but they'll tell you to go and do fine arts. I feel like there needs to be a balance between following your passion and doing things that make money. Probably the biggest project in Nigeria today, in terms of what's going to probably propel our richest man into the league of global billionaires, isn't really a passion project. It's making PMS petrol. It's just something that there's demand for and it's going to make money. It's not a passion, really. But nobody's passionate about petrol. It smells. You can't drink it. But it's something that there's a huge demand for. I'm not saying with a lot of the richest men in the world, they do pretty boring things. In fact, if you look at the top percentage of Americans, 0.5%, that earn over $1 million a year, all their businesses are boring. They sell cars. They sell coffee makers. Extremely boring businesses. So I think it's about finding a balance. Don't be disciplined, and you've got to look at the kind of business aspiration you want, and then try and measure it with what you're actually doing and see if that type of business can get you there. But all in all, following your passion without thinking about the kind of lifestyle you want, I think is incredibly bad advice. The second thing that I would say is around our networks. And I defined discipline on that slide as doing things that you normally wouldn't want to do, but you have to do to get a certain result. So I can remember when I hired somebody, and he said, oh, but Dr. Ola, you like traveling. I said, I hate traveling. He said, but you travel all the time. I said, does that mean I like it? So I started to realize that people actually only do things that they like, and they don't do things that they don't like. And one of the most interesting things is around weak ties and strong ties. So there's good evidence that people that you don't really know are the people that are going to help you most in your career. It's not going to be your mom or your dad. It's not going to be your family member. It's not going to be your best friends. It's going to be somebody that you don't know, your weak ties. And you can read about this. There's a very good article in the Harvard Business Review called The Strength of Weak Ties. So you want to hang out with people that are closest to you, but those are not the most likely people to give you business success. So also, I think, number one, don't follow your passion. Number two, or don't follow your passion blindly, but number two, also try and build on those weak ties. Pastor Koju spoke about luck, and I think there's two types of luck. There's blind luck. There's this thing on Twitter, that Mark Zuckerberg's new baby, they say that he's always smiling. That he's always smiling because he can't believe that it was this type of home that he was born into. So the baby is always smiling like, wow, my dad is Mark Zuckerberg. Somebody even said that, being born in Africa is such a disadvantage. Even Jesus did not choose to be born here. He still chose to be born in somewhere a little bit civilized. So there's that blind luck of, just being born into a great family, right? But there's also smart luck, which is a lot harder. And that requires a lot of discipline. If you're that Mark Zuckerberg's baby, then you've had blind luck. You didn't choose it. You just ended up there, and you're smiling all the way. That baby is always smiling. But, you know, if you're looking for smart luck, then it takes a lot of discipline and it takes a lot of really doing what you don't want to do on a daily basis. Doing a lot of what you don't really like doing, because there's a lot of things about my job that I don't like, but I have to do to get the result. So, smart luck versus blind luck. And the final point I want to make is around employment and risk. Hard work is a risk. Whether you're doing it in a job or whether you're doing it in entrepreneurship, the risk is not entrepreneurship, it's actually working hard, because it might not pay off. There's always that risk. And that's why people don't do it. If it was guaranteed that if you work hard for 5 years, I'm sure more people would do it. But people don't like the fact that this thing is not, people hate uncertainty. And that's why I believe strongly in employment, because I believe that at least you can innovate inside a company and still have better results than most people that are entrepreneuring all around. I always say that probably 99% of entrepreneurs in Nigeria don't make as much as a GM in a bank. And you're not worried when you're in a bank. You're actually doing your job, you're gaining skills, and you're innovating. But you're innovating in a comfortable place where you're not worrying about excessive risk. So I think one of the pieces of advice about entrepreneurship is remember that or innovation is remember that you can innovate from within a company. And if you want a certain type of lifestyle, then it might be better that you innovate within a company, because outside a company, you might not be able to achieve that lifestyle that you want to have in terms of balance. Because every time you pursue that smart luck, you're sacrificing some balance for it. And that's where I'll end, around balance. Because this is about innovating our way into the future. This is about being people of the kingdom, people, Christians, leading, showing that excellence, standing out, like Joseph did, as people that are excellent at what we do. Technically, it wasn't even about Joseph being a Christian. It was about the standard of his work. And the standard of his work spoke volumes. The Bible says that when we're talking about Daniel, that he had an excellent spirit. That work, what he was able to do, stood out. And that's what I really, really want for the church. I don't want mediocrity. I want us to be able to stand out for excellence, because that's the best form of evangelism there is. But that said, like I said, the more you pursue your career, the more you pursue your businesses, the less balance you have in your life. And to be vulnerable with you, obviously I've sacrificed stuff, a lot of things in my personal life to get where I am, and you might not be willing to make those sacrifices, and that's okay. Because at the end of the day, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they're the richest men in the world, but they're all divorced. All three. And if you think about even the richest men here, you know, their personal lives sometimes are a bit wonky. So we really have to think about that balance while we're innovating. So what have I spoken about in summary? The US is richer than Nigeria because they make things, because they innovate. And there's 5 things that I think are important for developing that culture of innovation here in Nigeria. Going into government, collaborating with government, investing in education, both on a public sector level and on a private sector level, investing in healthcare, because I obviously have a bias, and discipline. Discipline, that ability to do things that you don't want to do. Thank you very much.